We have a quorum, and it is 7:02. So let me call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. This is the Carlisle Select Board meeting of December 8th, 2020. Go over the agenda. 7 o'clock, we'll have community input. 7:05, the LEPC update. 7:15, the request for public art on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. 7:30, CY 2021 license renewals. 7:45, the TSAC recommendations for the school and Church Street signs. 8:15, the Conservation Commission will give an update on the beaver issues. 8:30, review update of the Select Board's fiscal 21 goals. 9:15, the Town Administrator's report. 9:25, liaison reports. 9:35, approval of minutes and warrants. 9:40, we'll go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations. And whenever that's over, we'll adjourn. And by the way, the executive session, we will not return to regular meeting after that. And so let me start and ask, is there any community input this evening? I'm going to the participant list here.
Alan, before you go too much further,
Yep.
I heard today that part of the virtual deal is that you're supposed to introduce people at the meetings, for those people who are visiting and don't know who anybody is. Tim, have you heard anything about this?
Our names are on our pictures.
They are.
Not aware of it, but
Okay. We should check.
you want to introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
we should check into that in case that is the case.
Yeah.
That if there are observers in the meeting, that the person who's leading the meeting is supposed to introduce.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either.
I wasn't either, and I don't know where exactly it came from, but I think we should look into it in case we need to do this in the future. Okay.
All righty. Hearing no community input, we'll go to the LEPC update. Chief Fisher.
Thanks, all. Just a couple of quick things. Our numbers in Carlisle, while up slightly, are not drastically up. I think the LEPC feels, for the most part, folks in Carlisle have done a fantastic job. We're looking at the kind of the 14-day window, and in that 14-day window, we've had 3 confirmed cases. So the total number of cases so far in Carlisle, 43 positive and 15 probable. That's since the tracking began. Just as a highlight, the fire department had 1 person in quarantine with a possible exposure. Police department, 2 out with COVID-19, both feeling well. Both were tested today and expect both back to work. Not tomorrow, they'll be eligible to come back to work on Thursday. So spoke to them both today and feeling pretty good about them coming back. One new thing for folks that did not have not seen the mosquito breaking news piece or caught it another place, Carlisle will begin COVID-19 testing for people in 7 categories. And the fire department's going to be the spot where folks get the test. They're going to be free of charge. And there's more details about that on both the town website as well as put out by the mosquito. But I think it's a really nice thing to be able for the fire department to offer that to our members. Mr. Goddard, of course, checked, and that is a CARES Act reimbursable expense. So through the end of December, we're hoping to be able to offer COVID-19 tests to those in need in Carlisle. It's not going to be willy-nilly. They are scheduled. There's a telephone number, dedicated telephone number to schedule a test that will be staffed 9 to 2 each day. And the tests are most days, Tuesday, Wednesday, the daytime hours, Thursday evening hours, Friday and Saturday daytime hours. So I think it's a pretty exciting thing that the Carlisle fire folks are doing, and LEPC has really been behind this, as has the vaccine subgroup. We're hoping for some news this week. The LEPC was hoping for some news this week about what's called the state's prioritization. So who would get the vaccine when? But that's still not come out. So as recently as today, during the governor's press briefing, and many members who are on this call right now, I know, reviewed the notes from the governor's press briefing. In essence, things are going to tighten up a little bit beginning Sunday, more having to do with restaurants, gyms, places where large groups of people are together. I really don't see this tightening impacting Carlisle greatly. We're already adhering to the mask and social distancing guidelines. So I didn't hear anything new. I watched the governor's press conference today and got the same notes that Linda and all of you did. So that said, I don't think there's anything else that I can think of off the top of my head, but of course, several of you are on the committee, and please let me know if I've neglected to say something you think is important. I could say one other thing. Carlisle Chair Committee's been really doing it up properly in town, provided a really nice experience, safe experience yesterday afternoon and evening. And we look forward to a couple of more coming up. I think, but the 19th is the next one, Barney? Is that the lighting, the 19th?
Carlisle Night of Lights.
Yeah, so we have some really nifty stuff coming up. The Carlisle Chair Committee's done a phenomenal job providing excellent experiences for young and old. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and take any questions.
I think I did hear on the news today that the governor will announce some vaccine distribution plans tomorrow.
Mm.
I saw that too, yes.
Yeah.
And we have our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Group that
This is Mark III.
we're ready to go
Okay.
here, Carlisle.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Yep. Okay, moving on. Request for public art on the Bruce Freeman Trail. Mr. Reed, good evening.
Good evening. How's everybody?
Doing well.
Good.
Good. Tim, I have a presentation, and I have to admit I'm not particularly adept at how this works in terms of you giving me control, but I do have I have it up on my end, and I also had sent it to you, so I'm not sure how we want to handle this.
Okay, I think you should be able to share your screen, Glenn. At least that's what it says on my screen. So I think you can go ahead if you can.
Do I need to accept control, or can you see my PowerPoint?
I think you have to accept control.
Just go down to the bottom and hit share screen, I think.
There we go. Okay.
While he's doing that, I just want to go back on the event with Santa last night. I do want to give a big shout out to Matt at Ferns, because he was really the guiding light behind all of it. And he did a terrific job.
There you go.
Here it comes. Got it.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board. This is what I'll put in the context of an initial request on the part of the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail for a potential display of public art along Carlisle's segment of the trail next year. And let's see, there we go. All right, and just quickly, by way of information, the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is a nonprofit that was created over 15 years ago to help promote the creation of the trail as well as its expansion. We'll talk about that in a moment. We're also involved in facilitating connections to the trail, for example, the Reformatory Trail that goes through Bedford and Concord. We promote the enjoyment and use of the trail, and finally, we're involved in its maintenance, including things such as funding some of the automated crosswalks where the trail crosses heavily trafficked roads. The trail continues to be a work in progress. Phase 1, Phase 2A, which includes Carlisle, are completed. Phase 2C, which is in West Concord, going from the Correctional Institute to about half a mile short of the Sudbury line, was also completed. Phase 2B, which is not colored there, is the bridge over Route 2, which for those of you who have been in the area, it is a work in progress and hopefully will be completed by the fall of next year. Phase 2D is under design and moving forward with the recent vote in Sudbury to appropriate funds for the purchase of the CSX rail bed, and the Framingham section of Phase 3 continues to be a future work in progress. So the summary of the request. Would the town of Carlisle allow the placement of one or more displays of outdoor art along the trail next year? The approximate timing, open for discussion, and there are other parties involved here too, including the artist and the umbrella, would be approximately June to November of next year. The project itself, the doors, hence go outdoors, because what this art consists of are pieces of art that were done on recycled doors, was developed by the Umbrella Arts and Environment Program. Is expected that we would cover any costs for installation and removal. In other words, no cost to the town of Carlisle. This could either be done in coordination with town DPW staff, or the umbrella can provide its own staff to oversee and assist with the installation removal. Funding, assuming that the town of Carlisle is interested, would be approved at an upcoming Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail board meeting later this month. And Westford is also expected to participate. In fact, given the 800 or so feet of trail that Carlisle has, the majority of the doors of the public art would actually be in Westford. All right. So just a few slides actually showing the art, which is really, quite spectacular. I don't know if people have had a chance this year to travel the trail in West Concord and see this display. It really was quite breathtaking. The art was really, really very well done. So Go Outdoors is the name. And as I said, the reason being that the fact that the substrate for the artwork were recycled and reclaimed doors. Here are several of the pieces of the art that were in place in Concord over the previous several months. Noted above that, there's a both a local and heavy environmental theme. There's also, something to bring a smile to people's faces, reflecting some of the, the whimsical nature of the artists involved. And also in keeping with keeping everybody safe, these are all socially distanced and, set up in such a way, to avoid unnecessary congregation around them. And I'll note for those of you who may be more interested in the display itself and the history of it, there's a 15-minute video, which I will, it's worth seeing, but I don't think that fits into our time today. But it's actually interesting to hear how this was developed, and there are interviews with the artists of several of the pieces. So any questions? And I can also go back if that would be helpful to any of the individual pieces of art. At this point, I believe there were 12 pieces that were on display in West Concord this past spring, summer, and early fall. It's not clear at this point in time how many of those will be available for Carlisle and Westford. That's still being reviewed and assessed by the umbrella. You probably won't know that, for a little bit. But there's clearly interest on the part of both the umbrella and the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to repurpose the doors from this year's display and to allow other towns on the trail to participate in their display.
Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none, I think personally, I think it's a great idea. Anything that increases interest in art is a good thing. And this sounds like an ideal sort of a use for art and get people out there and enhance their use of the trail.
I agree.
Do we need a motion for this?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, well, let's make one anyway in case we do.
Well, I have been, before you do, I do have a question. As I am on the board of the umbrella, do I need to abstain from the vote or recuse myself?
I assume you have no financial interest.
No, well, I
I'm
mean,
gonna say, as long as there's no,
they have
financial
interest
gain.
in me because I give them money.
then you should get 2 votes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just, if not, no other reason, I did need to disclose that.
I have a motion.
Just one quick question, sorry,
Sure.
Linda, but Glenn, how do these get installed?
So there are metal brackets at the base of each door. Those brackets, they're basically V-shaped brackets. One part is screwed into the bottom of the door. One part is screwed into a piece of wood, and then a piece of rebar goes through that piece of wood into the ground. Only reason I know that, even though I've been by them a number of times, is because I saw the video before today's select board meeting, and they actually showed that. So,
Thank you. No, I
You're
think it's a
welcome.
great idea.
Glenn, it would have been a lot cooler if you said it was installed the way that monolith was installed in that canyon.
Yeah, let's say no chrome monolith, huh?
yeah, but then it just might disappear at a moment's notice, and who would know, right?
That's right. Show up somewhere in a desert in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Okay,
So I
so,
want me to make a motion?
yeah,
Please do.
Okay, let's see, I move that the select board approve the installation of Go Outdoors artwork as proposed by the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Arnold, I.
Oscar aye.
Lewis, I.
Model I.
read I.
Unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Should be a nice addition.
All right, and we will obviously keep Tim informed as this proceeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to license renewals. Do you know, was Matt going to be here, or we're a little early?
I don't know. He didn't.
Maybe he
indicate.
was busy yesterday, so maybe he's
Right.
taking a night off. All right, we have 3 licenses that are up for renewal for Fern's Country Store, and I assume these are identical to ones he's had in the past. Is that correct, Tim?
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Therefore,
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the off-premise license renewal to Berry Barn LLC, doing business as Fern's Country Store, located at 8 Lowell Street, Carlisle, Mass. 01741 for calendar year 2021.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar aye.
Lewis, I.
Model I.
Read I.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve a common victualler's license to Berry Barn LLC, doing business as Fern's Country Store.
Vittles.
Victualers,
Victualers.
I think it's Vittles, right?
victuals, but anyway, it
Food.
must be a restaurant located at 8 Lowell Street, Carlisle, Mass. 01741 for calendar year 2021.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilloye.
Lewis, I.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye. And lastly, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to issue a carry-in liquor license to Berry Barn LLC doing business as Fern's Country Store located at 8 Lowell Street, Carlisle, Mass. 01741 for calendar year 2021.
Second.
Second.
Sorry,
Any
Luke.
Discussion?
There seems to be a lot of eagerness on the carryout one.
There are even people in the audience seconding. Yeah.
I didn't make another second.
Hearing no discussion. Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilloye.
Lewis,
Reed-
I.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye. And I
Motion
do
passes.
want to note that these had all been signed off already by police, fire, and building.
Correct.
Because in other years for other licenses, at times they were contingent on being, and these have already been signed off on.
And he's got a brand new facility practically, so nice.
Poor baby.
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty. Moving right along, TSAC. Luke?
Yep. Yeah, so this is, I had mentioned it a couple of weeks ago and we discussed it, was it maybe about a month and a half, well, before school started. The stop sign at the intersection of Church and School Streets. So this is it's the three-way, right, intersection right by FRS. And essentially what TSAC is recommending is that a third stop sign go in. So when you come off of West Street, from the road, you come off of Westford and go up, I think is that Church?
That's Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you go up Church.
Yeah.
Um,
The school
Yeah,
is
that-
on church and the churches are on school.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's backwards, yeah. That a third stop sign be installed there, for a couple of reasons. One, there's confusion there now, right? So probably 3/4 of the people stop because there is no stop sign. And then also two people coming from the two other directions go thinking that the men up over the hill have a stop sign. So we've discussed it, and I know Chief Fisher, if you want to weigh in terms of traffic and whatnot, but there's quite a bit of traffic up there now with pickup and drop off. And but it seems to, well, pickup is a little more hectic, but it seems to flow. And we think that adding this will really only just prevent confusion. And then the other piece was the no through traffic coming off of Westford up Church Street. Or is it School Street? Church Street. Coming up Church Street. And but at the last TSAC meeting, actually, it was brought up that, because that is going to impact folks coming from the west side of town, that we should probably try to, just gather more public input on that and see what folks think. It would only be from, 7 to 9 or 8 to 9. It would really only be during school hours, but we're not recommending that at this time. We want to gather more public input. Just because, right now it's really a non-issue because the traffic levels are, I think Chief Fisher was saying at, 10 to, 20% of what they normally are. So it's significantly lower. But TSAC is recommending that stop sign be installed. And I think Gary would be the one that would install it, correct?
Nope.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
so-
glad you're
so
going to.
bullets 2 and 3 are not part
Yeah.
of the motion.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
That's okay. I move that select board vote to approve the recommendation of the Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee as follows: to install a third stop sign with the wording "all way" at
Yeah.
the intersection of Church and School Streets, and add "all way" to the 2 existing stop signs at Church and School Streets.
Do I have a second?
Second, I guess I can second it. Yeah, no, and that other piece, that all way, yeah, that's an important piece too.
That
because-
is, that would
Yeah.
really help clarify.
Yeah, and actually, I forgot to mention that, sorry, I don't have I moved in the house and I don't have two screens, so I'm flipping back and forth. The goal would be to implement it, I think it was the 23rd of December. So basically, when school gets out, we would install it and put up, one of those signs that says, traffic pattern change sort of thing. But give people a couple of weeks to really get used to it before school goes back. Now the thing is, a lot of people probably don't necessarily drive up there, until school is in, right? But we're not going to implement it the first day of school, right? Or that sort of thing, right? So just a random school day. It'll be there for a week and change to let people adjust. And then, we'll obviously have a thing in the mosquito and everything. So
That's what I was going to say. It would, some kind of a public notice would be helpful. Yeah.
exactly.
I'm glad you guys are going to consider or reconsider the no through traffic thing. And I think you might be better it might be better worded, do not enter between the hours, because this through traffic concept is a little strange. That means, what does that mean?
Yeah, Steve, so that's the thing. It's really from the beginning of church to the end of church, right?
Yeah, but
And it's a significant cut through, right? But and I don't know if Chief Fisher's on, because he can explain it better, but yeah, there are a significant number of people that cut through. So it'd be, I don't want to say hard to monitor. Chief Fisher has said that there are ways they can do it, but yeah, no, it's either way, it's going to be.
I mean, you could also consider a right turn only at the end of church streets. And that would, disincentivize people from going through. If they take the Church Street cutoff, they can turn right onto Concord Street and that's it. They can't go through.
Oh, yeah, you're saying, just put the no through traffic. Yeah, the only problem, so put the no through traffic kind of on the next piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only problem is you're gonna have people that cut through and then.
That want to get to the school.
Well, no, that want to go 225 and then they're not gonna, well, some will go, right? And some will go, oh crap, I can't go, right? And they'll make that illegal left. So yeah, it's just that,
Anyway.
Yeah, but we'll open it up for further discussion. With it.
That one does bear some more discussion.
Yeah.
That'll generate some discussion, no question.
Yeah.
Good. All righty. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Oh, you did. Okay, good. Any further discussion?
That was my further discussion.
Hearing none. I'll have a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscalillo, aye.
Lewis, aye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Thank you very much. Passed unanimously.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
That's actually a good move, because I've constantly have to stop there and wonder if the other people are going to.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? I mean,
Yep.
now
Well,
it's-
as you say, everybody does stop, and then we do a
Right.
Alphonse Gaston thing. Yeah.
And look at that escargot.
All right, we are moving right along here.
Good.
Is there going to be anybody, Tim, do you know, from Conservation Commission coming, or is this is just an update?
Now, Lee Tatishev was planning on coming, but we're a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yep. So why don't we go to why don't we review the boards, the select boards, because I saw Mark on
Yeah,
here.
Mark's on, right.
and
Yeah.
He could leave if he wanted to. So let's go to item number 6. As you know, we've had planning sessions moderated by Mr. Way, and those have been actually useful for a number of different reasons, only one of which had to do with goal setting, but it had to do with a whole lot to do with communication among the various areas, boards and commissions and employees of the town, which I think has been extremely useful. And so we as you remember, we met on August 4th to do our own kind of planning and came up with sort of general sorts of things. But a few of those came out to be more specific. So let me ask if there's discussion on the strategic planning session from August 4th. We've discussed this once before.
Well, I think we've, if we look at our FY21 goals, short term, we did finalize the budget by 9/15. We did pare down the liaison assignments. We do require the draft minutes of the board meetings. Well, that one I haven't seen. I personally have not seen.
This is when you are the liaison to a particular board.
They're supposed to send you their minutes. I haven't gotten minutes to my boards that I know of.
Yeah, I do get them from the Council on Aging.
Okay.
And I get them
so-
from Gleason Library, but I don't get anything from the recycling committee or personnel or, of course, DBW.
So we might need to look at that and, tweak that one a little bit to make sure that we are getting those. Because of course I've forgotten which boards to whom I am liaising. So I can't, so, all right.
I attend the meeting, so I hear the minutes when I attend the Finance Committee meeting, but I don't get them in advance.
Yeah, okay. And I attend the municipal facilities, but I'm sure there's something else that I'm supposed to be getting and that I haven't been getting. So encourage and facilitate communication between the liaison and committee counterpart. That kind of a piece, I'd say, those two things.
Yeah, and that actually has improved, I think.
I agree. Whole joint meeting with Finance Committee by 9/1. Well, that's past the sell-by date. And we did do it.
Yep.
And hold joint meeting with the Board of Health, unless this is next, 2021 that we're talking about. But I think this was last September.
It was 2020, yeah.
Yeah. But those two things we've done.
Yeah.
And
we do meet regularly. I mean, 3 of us attend the LEPC meetings, and the Board of Health obviously is there, and the vaccine committee the same. So
yeah,
that's been an ongoing and very active communication.
So I think we're due for some new goals for the board.
Now, what's the, is this just a sample down here below the goal planning system with the IT support office?
Well, that is a sample of a goal that was produced by our fearless leader, Alan, during the goal setting exercises that we did with all the town heads
Right.
of
Okay.
department. And each department head came with their board member, their board chair, and they worked on the goals together. So Alan and Tim, I assume you worked on this one together, or not? Or was this just a personal goal, Alan?
This was Alan's
Yeah.
work.
That was Alan. Oh, it's Alan's shtick, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, it started out just as you say, as an example at the session, and then I was requested to do it more formally, so I have done that.
And I would say, having attended all the sessions, that one of the reasons that you were asked to do that more formally was because the need for better IT was underscored by a lot of the department
Correct.
heads, and that has been, uncovered. I think we always knew it, but I think now that we have COVID and we're doing business differently, there was no escaping it anymore.
I had not expected the applause when I first proposed this, but
Yeah. So, and I think were the board to adopt this particular goal, we would greatly help the town and the town operations in general, because they are not equipped or prepared to do the work that they need to do in order to figure out what kind of software and hardware that they require. I mean, they know they need it, but they don't know even where to begin.
Yep.
And so I think this is an important goal for the selectmen to take on.
and I do see this as something that probably is going to take some time, but I think it's to get started on it right away. That's why I put a whole bunch of stuff coming in early 2021 to do some collaborate, find out what's going on in other towns. How are they handling it? Begin to talk about what the costs are going to be, because they're going to have, if it means hiring somebody full time, that's got to be in the budget. So there are a lot of elements to this that, probably may not be ready for this year's town meeting, but certainly we can lay a very strong foundation for it. So that even if a special town meeting were to be held in the fall, it might be ready by then.
And I think we have to also kind of be aware that even though this will cost some money up front, we have to take the long-term view. Is already increasing pressure from various boards that they need more hours for their employees yet again. And a lot of the things that they need it for are things that could be done by, automatically with this IT. So it's one of those things where, it's like the grant writers, yes, that grant writer, costs a salary and benefits, but then he brings in, or she brings in income and, pays for himself. And I think that's going to be the case to a great deal with IT as well. We will save, we've had estimates, this, what I'm doing that I've cost me 5 hours a week, every week. And we add up the hours, and boy, at times 50 weeks, that's a whole lot of hours that are being wasted on doing things that by the push of a button could be done automatically. And that would then obviate the need for a new, 250-hour employee.
So can I want to push back a little on waiting a whole cycle and a half. I mean, we're here at the end of calendar 20. We really have not quite 3 months, right, to set the articles for town meeting.
Right.
Approximately 3 months.
Yeah.
And we have pretty good anecdotal information, right? I think, some of us on this board have participated in the land use boards. Others, well, anyway, we all went to some version of Mark's goal setting sessions. I can only speak for the land use boards, but that need for common IT support was a pretty big theme.
Yep.
I certainly know from my time on school board that IT is a huge piece, and Scott Hefner's been really great, donating his time to the town, and Jim O'Shea has been very generous, in allowing that. But the fact is, it really has quite a bit of its own needs. We've got MJ, is it MJ? What's his name? RJ, chasing infrastructure, and it has a bunch of needs. Luke and Nathan spent a lot of time sort of sorting that out. So, I mean, I want to caution us about the study of the study. We have a lot of anecdotal data that it's a high need. You've articulated the goal pretty well. I wonder why we couldn't accelerate the schedule to get a position in shape for a town meeting article. Because we know the need's there. It's not like we have to validate the need. We've got this long, slow run up into, maybe.
Well, we have to articulate the need.
What's that?
We have to articulate the need. We have
No,
a lot
but
of
I mean,
we have a lot of
that's a
anecdotal
brainstorming-
evidence for the need, and a lot of it say, oh well, it's obvious to everybody. Well, no, it needs to be.
I understand, Alan, but couldn't that be, a session with Mark and boards? I mean, that seems like a week's worth of work. It's, it's just this long, slow run up that gets me like, yes, we should benchmark. I agree. Coordination with school IT department, a lot of that conversation has been done. So that's a conversation. They already know.
Well,
Infrastructure.
they know the hardware side.
No, I don't, yeah, maybe. But all I'm saying, Alan, is you've got a month in between action items. And the bottom line is that the process, listen, I think it's a great, the goal setting is great. My question is the timeline where we don't need to hire by the town meeting. We only need to finance it by the town meeting, right? So why can't, if it's a 415 prepare budget, I mean, is this, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but is this a fiscal 22 budget item? Are we making room for it then?
Well, the finance committee is expecting to begin the budget process in mid-January. Okay?
Right.
And begin to put things down on paper in
Right.
February. So
So
it's
can't we merge with that goal by just putting a placeholder position? I mean, we kind of know, we can benchmark what it's going to cost, for an IT person. So we could probably just,
Well,
put that in our budget.
well, I don't know that we can do that until we know what the job description is.
Boy, I don't know. I really feel like you're making perfect be the enemy of the good.
No, I'm
I
not.
Okay.
I've been through this. I was a college president. I put together a 5-person IT department. I know what's involved.
But
There
with
are
all due
skill
respect,
sets.
and I run a company too.
Depending on what the needs are, you have very different skill sets in terms of who you hire. Whether it's
So,
whether it's
all right,
person
but
goes- Go ahead.
Alan, what you're saying is we're gonna be either 6 months if we have special town meeting or a year away from making the hire because we can't organize ourselves in the next 90 days to figure that stuff out. I mean, we're not a college. We're pretty nimble as a town. We don't have a lot of people.
If I may jump in and ask a question, would that be okay?
You sure?
You have to say
What
your
would it
name and
take-
where you live.
Schedule-wise, what would it take to have an item on the warrant so that Finance Committee and the others would have their time to look at it? By when, what are the dates that are kind of milestones that are important to follow? If we had an article on the warrant for a position, even if it's a placeholder for a position that would start July 1st.
Well, unless there's a budget item that goes along with it, it doesn't have any meat.
Okay, but
Well,
just-
typically, I think you're asking the question, sort of what's the process? Well, we could, there could be a placeholder until maybe mid-February. And then we
Well-
have to be more specific. And
I think the answer to Mark's question is number 4 and 5 on the specific action steps. The first thing, in order for the FinCom to look at it, we need a job description that needs to go to personnel or to Tim or whomever to rank that position and kind of give us a price tag for it. And we need then to go to FinCom, prepare the FinCom request for it, and then we need to put it on the warrant, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I would
So-
raise a slightly different question about getting there. I mean, I fully support the idea of trying to make it happen as soon as we can, but given that there's some changes happening in terms of staff positions at Town Hall, the discussions about reorganizing the land use departments and potentially some retirements. Do we need to sort of look at, we need to understand what our needs are, but also do we have to just simply add a whole new position? Are we confident that that is required rather than thinking about, filling an opening that may come up with someone with these skills, or a job description that might change, and so the half of the position might be the IT work. I'm just throwing it out there because I think the easy solution is to say we need a full-time, IT person.
I've got actually given some thought to this because been listening it from all sides. And it's not just the person, the land use committee that needs to be coordinated around their IT things, but there's also the financial, which is a totally different animal. And
Right.
what would worry me is if you've got somebody who's, good with the financial IT, but then I'd like to see something more global, somebody who knows globally how
Right.
all the
And I
departments work.
I think you have to, right. First of all, I would say to Barney, I don't know an organization in the world in the 21st century that doesn't need an IT person.
correct.
Lots of them don't have it,
Yeah.
but everybody needs it. Everybody needs it. You've got
Well, I guess
somebody
I'm, but
operating
I'm,
hardware.
yeah.
Now,
David, I just to clarify something, I'm raising whether there's some other staff changes that might allow us,
Okay, but let me
right,
finish.
instead of adding an entire new position.
Well, okay, but let me go through my waterfall. Okay, so first of all, I think any organization of size, municipal particularly, needs an IT person, not somebody who shifts and does something else half the time. The second thing is, what is the breakdown of that IT person? And I think, to Kate's point, and what we've learned, I mean, there's hardware issues. There's clearly hardware, and I'll include in hardware wiring and fiber and networking and all that stuff. There's that. There's cyber, and there's any kind of security, which is any organization is going to need that. And then there's software, which does tend to be use specific. But the management of software and the making sure that it's on the right servers and the permissions and the way you organize it and all that stuff, that is the role of a modern IT person. In an organization I run, and I'm sure Alan in the university you ran, the IT person doesn't make the decision about what land use software. The specialists make the decision about what kind of software is needed. The management of the software, the management of the security, the management of the hardware, the management of, whether people work remotely with laptops and how that's organized, that's common across. I think we're being short-sighted if we don't approach it the way a modern organization approaches IT. And again, I have to say, and maybe we're not ready for the town meeting, but I'll bet anybody a beer at Ferns with their renewed. We're going to get that we need a dedicated person who is in that modern look of things, that knows how to run an organization. And I'm sure when we survey, and we absolutely should survey the towns, the better run towns will all have that.
You're absolutely right. And but I think there's one thing you've left out, David, and which gives me a lot of pause. When we went to remote activities as a town, we had a bunch of people who didn't know how to run a computer.
Right.
Training is going to be a
Training,
major
no, I agree. Training is
component
key.
of it,
Yeah.
and that's very time consuming.
Yeah, well, yeah, and every time we get a new piece of software, all the people that are going to use it are going to be needing to be trained on it too. So
Right,
that
but
don't screw one
again,
another
you
up.
have to, I mean, this is a sort of philosophical discussion. You get a software that's a financial software, a land use software. The IT person is not the trainer, right? You get in either the software provider to do training, or the people train the trainer inside the sub-organization. The technical experts in their area need to be, promoting and making sure the right software is used properly. And if you go to the school, Scott does not teach people how to use the school teaching software. He just makes sure it's all organized, and then they go find resources to train the teachers to use it, or the students.
Right.
So training is key, but it's not really the job of the IT person to be the trainer. So anyway, all I'm saying is, I think if we focused on it for, a month, we could probably get a pretty good job description based on comparable towns and our own survey of needs. And I wonder if we couldn't then get it on the warrant,
Well, you may be right. It would require dedicated effort by a number of people over
Yeah,
the next 2 months.
Well, that's the question. We're in a
like
goal
20
setting.
hours a week.
Well, I don't know about that, but we're in a goal setting with Mark. So if that's our
Yep.
goal, I mean, if we look at the sheet, right, as Kate said, I mean, we kind of ticked a few of the low hanging fruit. We kind of ticked some of that.
Right.
And we're doing a decent job, I think, at sort of getting boards and committees to talk to each other and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think we set ourselves some fairly modest goals, and we're sort of achieving them. So good on us. And now we're stepping up to a more significant goal.
Yep.
But that's kind of what we were elected to do, right?
So let me propose something. I would be happy pro bono, because I'm a resident and I like that kind of activity. Here's the proposal. I would sit with Tim fairly soon over the next few days to map out a kind of a timeline between assuming that the objective is to be with a warrant article at town meeting in April, backing it to what are the various milestones that needs to be achieved between now and then, so that we can have whatever you end up deciding as a select board to put on the warrant, but at least evaluate who needs to do what, personnel board, finance committee, and so forth, so forth. I'm happy to do that. And I think I could devote enough hours that certainly within the week or two, we could put that in a form that you could look at it.
That'd be great. I mean, I think the sequence is pretty well set. The question is, what's the durations of within each
Right.
sequence?
But the point, if anybody, if all of you then have, say, with the next 10 to 12 days, an idea of what the sequence is and who needs to say yes or no and whatever, then it enables us to decide, it enables you to decide whether that is achievable or not, whether it's a realistic goal or not. And
I
what's
mean,
the
you have
scope of
to,
it.
really what we're saying is item number 5 needs to be done by, say, March 1. So we need a 45-day compression of items 1 through 5, right? We don't really need, once it's budgeted and
Right.
passed in town meeting, 6 through 9 can happen whenever in the summer, right?
Yeah.
So that's the question. Can we come up, maybe Mark, you could, the thing you could do, one of the things you could do, and I appreciate your offer, is, see what a realistic schedule of 1 through 5 is, considering the holidays and everything else.
Right.
Interview the school IT department, see how much they can help. They've got a lot of knowledge in that area. How quickly can we, who's going to canvass other towns, and, how long does that take? And
Yeah.
stuff.
I would, yeah. And I mean, exploring coordination with school IT should be one afternoon, maybe, a small working group, Tim, you, Jim O'Shea, Scott, and somebody who's interested in this whole thing, to see, do they have any excess capacity? Do they have any holes in their needs that they would like to see plugged that we could then coordinate with our guy, right?
Yeah.
The canvassing other towns, ditto. I mean, it's not, how many towns? 5 towns, that's 5 phone calls, half an hour each, 1 a day for a week. That shouldn't be that hard to do.
Right.
I would even volunteer to do that.
Towns are identified, right.
So,
I would say, we might consider putting out a request in the Mosquito. There's probably 100 people in this town who have forgotten more about IT than we'll ever learn.
yes,
Correct.
some of whom may even be unemployed at the moment. Who knows?
It's a very good point, David, absolutely.
So, and honestly, I'd rather have an ambitious goal and fail than to assume that we can't get to it. And
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I give the college pride.
worst case, we're not ready, right?
Yeah, I have no problem. I took very seriously the R in Mark's
Yeah. No,
hierarchy.
you make, yeah, I know.
But I do think this is still realistic. I think it's still realistic that we could get this done. Obviously, we don't necessarily, the FinCom could say absolutely not over our dead bodies or whatever, but we have to get it there first.
So going back to, I just want to touch back to Barney's point about possible retirements and reorgs at
Well,
Town Hall. I actually see this as, if anything, Barney, more pressing, if in fact that's occurring. I think it's even more important that we buttress our support functions, so that if we have new people or people switching jobs or whatever, we're giving them more support rather than less support in areas that, are important.
and it brings us to actually another one of my personal goals that are for the select board, and that is to, and it's partly why we embarked on that small group thing to start with, was to develop succession plans for the various town departments, and to think about not only just the individuals, succession of the individuals, but the succession and evolution of our town government. And that's why we're talking about maybe consolidating the boards. And what other areas are there in the town that we need to be thinking about that? And so I would like us, as a second goal, And maybe it's a little longer term goal than this one, but one that shouldn't be put off too long is thinking about the succession plans for the town as a whole. And that COOP thing, this continuous continuity of operations. Which
You were saying you were gonna have a coup, a Carlisle coup and take over some function of.
Yes. We're all the cuckoos.
And it also comes in,
Well,
we need to be, we're going to be hiring a new finance person here shortly.
yes,
And the skill set that that person needs may very much depend on what we come up with for this.
Right.
You know,
yes, in fact,
somebody who's already well-versed in IT, at least in that realm.
exactly. And especially since a lot of functions are still being done by hand in that department, even though we have, what's the name of the?
Munis.
Munis, thank you. That has all kinds of various, not nodules, modules. Thank you. Sorry, I'm having a senior moment over here. I'm first in line for vaccines because of my age, you know. But anyway, yeah, that need to know all the modules and how to plug them in and coordinate all the personnel files from all the other departments that are not really necessarily being done now. So the IT goes in two directions. It really will be going in two directions. It's not just, but we need that. That doesn't obviate the need for the IT, general IT person though.
The other goal I'd add is really a continuation of the goal setting workshops that have taken place, but that is to sort of have a trial period going through until the end of the fiscal year to have department heads and department employees actually have a final goal, and then for us to and this is something Tim and Kate and I have been working on, but to have a evaluation form that everybody has seen and participated in, you know, reviewing, but then we're going to try it out next year, for the end of next fiscal year, of this fiscal year, excuse me, in evaluating those goals that have been established. So that's a long way of saying phase 2 of the goal setting and then performance evaluation.
Well, and even, I mean, going one layer up from that, Barney, is just the general reassessment of our HR policies, the way we manage HR.
Yes.
Bring in defining what the personnel board is responsible for, what we're responsible for, and
yeah, and that's we've also been working on that bylaw and those policies. But yes, that's right, to finish that and have something ready for town meeting in terms of those bylaw changes.
Yeah, and to reinvigorate the evaluation process and make it a vigorous process, because that will be good for the whole town. It keeps people thinking about why they're doing what they're doing, rather than, oh, it's because we just always did it this way. No, you know, they're not going forward. They're just treading water.
And also, you know, back to Alan's point about training, that's another part of, I think, what we want to be promoting through these this performance evaluation process is staff people having the opportunity to enhance their skills or learn new skills.
Yeah.
And that's something that we identify in that process. And then the town administrator or the select board make sure that those individuals have the opportunity for that development.
so there's a financial component to that too.
I was going to say, I think one of our goals needs to be to talk to the finance committee and tell them that we want to be more forward-looking, take a longer vision, that many of the hiring policies in the past, I personally consider to have been just too short-term. This idea of hiring a bunch of part-timers so that you avoid spending, you know, on benefits is maybe penny wise and pound foolish at the end of the day, that you don't get the same quality of work and so,
In fact, Joan Ingersoll made a very nice presentation in Monday night about why she's doing that in the Council on Aging.
yeah, and a lot of this has been driven with the approbation of the select board. You know, I'll take some of the blame because it seemed like a good idea at the time. But a lot of it is driven by the FinCom, and rightly so in many respects, but I think we need to start pushing back on it.
Okay. But by the way, we've tentatively set a meeting between FinCom and the select board for the first meeting in January.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. So we actually have quite a few goals. Can I, you looked like Alan was taking notes, but there's the IT goal. There is the continuation of the evaluation process, and there's the, we can call it COOP because I think it's just probably easier, or succession planning, and just kind of evaluating just how we are set up as a town and whether that still works for us or not, you know.
Yep. Good. Any further discussion on this? So Mark and Tim will get together, and if you want me there, I can be there as well.
Okay.
But I think I can if it's not one of my other meetings. But I have fewer than Tim does, so it's all right. But
So
okay, let's do
Should I
that.
just follow up with both you, Tim, and Alan, and give you some openings as to potential meeting, or either
Sure.
Zoom or telephone, whatever?
That'd be
Would that
great.
would
Sure.
that
Yeah,
work?
your availability, sure.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do you need me any further?
No, sir. You're all set.
All right.
You have the night off.
Thank you.
Mark.
And I hope your night is not too long.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Same to you.
Mark, thank you.
All right. If there's no further discussion on this, let's move on to agenda item number 5, the Conservation Commission beaver issues. And I see Lee's here. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm hoping to be very quick with you today. Last time I promised to bring you updated quotes, and I can give you a status of what's occurred and take any questions you have. I'll start with, given your blessing, we went forward with getting the emergency certification from the Board of Health, which then enabled the CONSCOM to do their emergency cert. The Board of Health is going to have to be renewing it frequently, so I'll appreciate your continuing to support them doing that. There was an application of $300, an application fee of which I was unaware of previously, and that was to apply to Natural Heritage to get the approval. The approval is in place for 5 years for this plan. We can amend it if we need to. I forwarded on to Tim, and trust he sent it on to you all, the revised quotes from Beaver Solutions. The cost for Maple Street, as you all had anticipated, including the yearly maintenance, went up by 200, which is the fraction of the year that we were getting credited for. Brook Street, their expectation is that, his expectation is that because it's too shallow, a water leveling device will be insufficient at the culvert at Brook Street. He is instead proposing fencing, much like they have on the south side of Brook Street, although hopefully a little bit less unsightly. It's wildlife friendly, and what happens is the beavers and turtles can pass through, but they can't bring their materials to make a dam. And so that came out to 1,700 even. He waived fees for assessing the site. He's waived a bunch of fees for us. He's also sent along word that they can do the fencing pretty much as soon as we want, as long as there isn't as much as, say, 4 inches of ice on the ponds. And if we do that, then Gary and DPW won't have to be clearing the dams as frequently, if at all. So I would request that you authorize that for both of these locations, and I'll tell them to go ahead once you give me the okay. I think that was all I had. Oh, no, and then I have my, I'd like for us as a town to be talking about what is the right solution for managing the beavers going forward. There's another situation on private, state, and town land over by the bog. And these situations are not going to go away. They're non-jurisdictional for any one of us, which leaves our homeowners sort of in the lurch. And it's both bad for the environment and bad for the homeowners and bad for the town and the state. So it would be nice if we had a more proactive solution, and I'd suggest putting together a working group of sorts. I know that the CONSCOM has had numerous townspeople reaching forward, some offering forward money to pay for these if you guys won't, if the town won't, but I think it's the town's responsibility. Others who would like to volunteer on some beaver-related subcommittee to help navigate these issues. I don't think the town should take over beaver control for private property. But that said, we need to have documented in place what private homeowners can do to address their problems and what's a sustainable solution. And with that, I'll yield.
Thank you. Discussion.
Remind me, when we say the town is paying for this, does this mean that we need to get this, go to FinCom and get an authorization to spend free cash on it? Which pocket is this coming out of?
That's a question to whom?
To whomever knows the answer.
I don't know. Sylvia wrote a check, so I'll sign it.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about what, $4,900?
Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
32 and
Plus the
17.
300 for the application for natural heritage. So call it 50.
5,200.
And it was an emergency basis. This,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were being flooded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say Sylvia wrote a check?
she wrote a check for 300, and he
300.
sent us an invoice for all the rest of the parts.
Okay, all right. Well, I
He's
just,
billing us for removing that dam, and that was the 250 separate, but that was a known cost.
Tim, how would you think we should approach this?
Well, right now, and we're reimbursing Sylvia for that $300, by the way. Right now, right now, it's a combination of funds that the DPW may have in surplus funds within the selectmen's accounts, and if need be, we'll approach the finance committee. But we think we can handle it short of doing that.
that would be better. And of course, the DPW will be saving money by not having to do all that work in those dams. So
Right.
in a way,
Itself.
All right.
okay, but I just wanted to be sure
Yeah, the funds are there.
that,
Right.
that we didn't have another step that we had to take before we could authorize this
Yeah.
for sure. Okay,
So I would accept a motion to authorize the town administrator to pay these invoices.
so moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilo, aye.
Louis, aye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Super.
And
Hopefully,
can I just add, I do like Lee's idea of the working group or some sort of a task force and a policy document being, because in a way that's another one of my was way back last year, one of my goals was to get policies written down and reviewed, and this would be the type of thing that would fit into that as well. We kind of, do things on the fly, and I don't think that's necessarily good for anybody down the
Right.
line.
There was a dog working group, a noise working group. I think this can be just as focused.
Yeah. David, you're
Is that
you're muted if you're adding to our conversation. I don't know.
Lee, is that something that you would be willing to help create, identify some people to be part of it?
I would, although I'd need representation from the other town boards, right? Board of Health and DPW in particular, who would represent DPW because they're not really, who would do that part. But yes, I'd be happy to drive that. And if I left Conscom, I'd find someone else to do it.
That comes under the heading of no good intention goes.
Oh, I know. Believe me, my husband's been calling me about this.
Matt and Sarah, FaceTime video.
So will
Sorry.
you,
So why don't I propose a structure for who I need and I'll send it to you in email. I don't think I need to present it to you, but it'll be one rep from everywhere. And then one, maybe two citizens at large. Funding of beaver constructs, if we wanted to use the conservation gift fund, that could be a vehicle for funding some of this if we wanted to go that route. Some of it is the town's responsibility, but if there are taxpayers who would like to support this in lieu of doing volunteer work, I'm sure we could find a vehicle for that.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Lee, before you leave, the issue I was hoping we could discuss briefly tonight is the Greenough Dam. So, you know,
Oh,
we
yeah.
had-
Oh, okay. Yes.
So there was a little back and forth about a two-pronged solution and what that means. I mean, basically, maybe you could summarize for us about the timing and potential of a grant versus not having a grant, and what happens if there is no grant, and, you know, what do we do kind of thing.
Right. We've had a discussion with CPC, copying in Luke, who was giving us some advice on this matter. And you know, your concern and my concern are the same, which is what if the state never opens up the grant? And so we're contemplating going forward with a request for CPC to fund it in its entirety, separately from the request that we already have. And that way, if they open up the grant, we can use that first CPC grant and claw back the other. That's all that I've thought of.
Okay. So two questions. One for you
Yep.
is, are you going to try to organize all this in time to get a warrant?
Yes.
Get on the warrant, okay. And then to my rules meister, Luke, you know, if in fact there are two concurrent and conflicting CPC grants, what happens?
Yeah, so you don't do two, you do one to fund the full amount. Yeah, so then you pull back the other one, right? Because what happens is if they both get approved, you encumber the funds. So you couldn't use, so, you know, what was it, 200,000 or 250?
Right.
To say you do one for 250 and one for 500, that's 750,000 that you've got encumbered. So what you do is you do the 5, say, right? And then if you only spend 300 of it, great, you give the remaining 2 back. So the grant that we approved this year will get clawed back at the beginning of, you know, I guess you could make it conditional upon, you know, the other one getting approved, right? But because
Right.
it's got a 2-year shelf life.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you do is you would claw that back and then, you know, fund the new one in full. Because the thing with CPC is you don't want to half fund a project,
Right.
you know, because then that's no good, right?
It has to be funded in its entirety. Our expectation, I mean, it's been in the state budget for over a year, and we're just waiting for the grant opportunity to open up.
So that leads to another question, which is, you know, the risk, I'm gonna have to mute quickly here. It leads to the risk of, you know, the dam collapsing basically before we are able to get all this stuff done.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
Yeah.
I mean, is the winter gonna be rough on the dam more than normal?
I don't
or-
think so. And honestly, actually, the dam survived the breaching of the Beaver Dam better than anticipated. The breaching that happened over Thanksgiving, which was, you know, I'll call it a rogue breaching with no judgment, but you know, it was breached all of a sudden, and something like a foot of water went downstream very, very fast. And that almost overtopped Greenough Dam, and we were all very concerned watching that happen. This breaching was much more careful and slower, and the water heading on downstream seems to have been much more controlled. Once the ponds ice over, the beaver activity there will stop entirely, And once we have the fences in place, we can anticipate that we won't be doing a whole lot more. We'll still just have to manage the extraordinary storm events.
Okay.
And those aren't going away and they're not in our control.
All right. So we're kind of fingers crossed and try to,
Yep.
I mean, that if we just sort of, because we don't get to talk to you that often, so let's say you put your figures together, you get a warrant into the Springtown meeting. To Luke's point, we claw back the old one, so we only have one grant for the full amount. When do we decide that it's no longer useful to wait around for the state? And like, what's the triggering event to just self?
I think that's an open question, honestly. You know, I'm frustrated that we've been waiting more than 12 months,
No, I know, but we,
you
I mean,
know, and so,
we should set ourselves a timeline, like, we can't do anything till spring, because we don't have, A, you wouldn't do it in the winter, and B, we don't have
yeah,
money.
we can't do it
You
anymore.
get to June, the end of the, say, government fiscal year, the state has not moved grants. I think we should set up our own rubric about when we just decide to pull the plug on the grant and just go forward, right? Like summer construction or something like
If
that.
we were to move forward and then we get the grant, would they not, would they rescind the grant if we've already done the work? Is that the point?
I don't know.
Or would they, because because that might be a moot question that you're asking, David. If they, grant the grant and they give us the money,
Well, that's something,
regardless, we can then just reimburse ourselves.
I mean, I guess you got to check into that. In my own, government business, and it's not state government, it's federal government, but they're pretty much sticklers. If you spend $1 of your own money because you want to get going, that's your money. When they give you the contract, they fund whatever's left over. But
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, that's research.
Yeah, we should be able to look into finding a way to get the quotes from the contractors to segment the costs of that, because if we commit to a certain extent, and then the second half, if we can find a way to two-phase it,
Yeah.
that would make more sense. And that way we would still have some grounds for going forward with the grant if they do suddenly open it up next August, for example.
Yeah, but August is kind of late, right? Wouldn't you want to be doing construction basically in the summertime?
We have no anticipation of when it would start. We have the permits in place and we've been extending the permits for a couple of years now.
Right, but I'm asking more,
Yeah,
not,
when it's
from a
driest, right?
yeah, when is the time to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, July.
July, yeah,
I
it's
mean,
not
I
spring.
guess my feeling, just setting aside my normal Scroogey New England hat and just saying,
Can you
that
do that? Can you do that?
I just worry that we're on a time bomb and we managed to scrape by another year, let's say, but I guess my feeling would be if we can get the warrant article approved at town meeting, we do a final push to the state to see if they'll fund it. And if not, we just plan to do it in the summer of 21. That'd be my, but that's not a educated recommendation. That's just, observational, let's say.
No, if it were my own cash money, I'd be saying we should be putting it out for bid today, rebid because the bids have expired.
Well, you'll have to do that anyway.
Yeah, we're
in
gonna have to do
preparation
that
for the
anyway.
article, right?
But that's another thing to consider too, right? If the bids expire, right, then you got to go back out. And what if the cost increases and then you potentially have to go back to town meeting if it's significant, right? Because I mean, you always build a buffer in there, but
But I mean, if
Well,
you,
the bids were, I don't know. I've bid projects before and I'm not used to over 100% variation.
yeah, no, it was huge. Yeah.
It was.
so what happened? They doubled? What was?
No, the low
you mean the
bid
variation
was
between the high
like
and the low. Yeah, yeah,
250 and the high bid was 750. I mean,
Right.
they were absurd.
But so if you rebid it now and you got fresh information in, say, January,
Yeah,
are they typically good for 6 months?
yeah, it should be.
Okay, so I mean, or you could require that, right?
Yeah,
I was
we
gonna
put
say,
we put a
that's gotta be good.
requirement in, yeah.
Right, so I would say then, yeah, we sort of
Okay, so the message I'm getting is that we should
answered our
move
own
forward
questions
with
and
drafting.
plan for construction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you go one more time to the state and say, look, what are you guys doing? And if they tell you they're not ready, then okay.
I don't know who we're talking with at the state. We're going to a location and checking and seeing,
Is
plinking
this
around
still
on the website.
Sylvia, or, I mean, maybe we have to be a little more proactive
Yeah,
and actually identify somebody who knows
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah. Somebody with accountability.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we should be able to reach somebody. It can't be
Yeah.
just a website. There's got to be a body there that
Yeah.
is responsible for those kind of grants.
you're right. I should be able to follow that up.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are all my questions.
We might be
Right.
able to get help from Tammy Gouvet's office.
That's the other, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah. Barrett.
Thank you.
All right, thanks,
All
gang.
right, Lee, nice to
Take
see
care.
you. Thank you.
Yep.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Item 7, Town Administrator's Report.
Okay. The first item in my report, you'll see a letter from the Minuteman Senior Services on the number of Carlisle residents that they were able to serve during 2020. And the unduplicated total of residents served is almost 400. So that, regardless of the number of programs they participated in, there are, 400 individuals that were served by Minuteman Senior Services. So that's quite noteworthy, I think, and indication of the times, certainly.
And the graying of the town. What sort of services do they provide?
Well, the big one is Meals on Wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, the attachment shows by program the number of participants. So, but the
Oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah, the big one is the health benefits.
Yeah. Okay.
And in-home care, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the law project. Okay,
A
yeah.
lot of.
Shine
I saw that somehow. It just didn't connect tonight. Sorry. Okay. All right.
So, okay, moving on, the fire department was a recipient of a risk management grant from Maya. It was a very competitive program this year, getting about $1,000 for some additional storage equipment in the fire station. So kudos to the chief.
I love though the flammable storage cabinets. Does that mean that they can you can set those alight, or that you can put things in there?
That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? Yeah. They're definitely flammable.
Yeah.
Well, then they're in the right place. They're in the right place.
They're appropriate for the fire department.
If they're in the
But
fire
it
department.
did strike me, Steve, what the heck is a flammable storage cabinet?
Yeah, I
Okay,
guess, yeah.
never mind. Just moving right
Flammable
along.
materials. Anyway, moving on to item 3. We've been discussing with our new cable consultants, public informational session during the month of January to provide both an overview of the cable licensing process, including which items are likely to be on the table in the negotiations with Comcast. A number of things have changed in the past 10 years, as you might expect in the industry, particularly with the number of customers that need to be connected or offered a connection to the service. We have a good number of people in town that are kind of a little further off the grid, or to extend the service to where they live would be, an exorbitant cost. And there's an opportunity in these negotiations to make that a little easier and to serve some more people, and numerous other issues that the consultants are right on top of, because they've been dealing with this in many other towns. So it'll be partly about that, and then partly an opportunity for residents to explain mostly what their concerns have been, their frustrations with Comcast. We hear it, a lot of the time that, well, first, if people can't get connected to Comcast, or they have problems with their service, and so it's an opportunity for residents to put their concerns first and foremost. That will enable us to bring that up when the time comes.
I had an email just today on that.
Oh, really?
Well, it's been a topic on City in the Woods.
Uh-huh.
Right.
They're kind of pushing for why aren't we joining Concord?
For what?
Because Concord doesn't want us to join. Concord.
Well, that was my reply. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done. Love to get
So,
power
uh,
from them
You mean
too.
the power, the utility?
Well, Concord has their own cable. The light company provides their cable.
Yeah,
Oh, they didn't used to when I lived there, but okay. So this is something.
yeah, they do now.
Yeah, I mean, quite a number. I shouldn't say quite a number. I know of towns in even small towns in Massachusetts which provide their own cable. They do it themselves, and actually speak favorably of it.
Okay.
So a
We
question
have
I
to get
have,
that IT guy first. Though.
What, Gary can't do this?
Gary, just run 75,000 miles of cable. Yeah.
so the question I have for the board is, would you like to have this public information session during a regular meeting? Or would you like it to be on a dedicated night for that purpose? Our first meeting in January is the 12th. Meaning the 12th.
Given everything that's going on, I think it should be a separate meeting. We have plenty to do in our regular meetings,
I agree.
and this is liable to have a fair amount of public interest.
Yeah, this will. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my vote.
Yeah, we
All right,
can combine it with the deer committee.
All right, we'll
What,
look for separate.
is there any way we could get like a briefing though before we go right into the public session? You know, like if we could get an update from,
That would be a good idea.
yeah, just so we
Yeah.
are kind of
Sure.
know what's going on.
Yeah, I think if it's going to be a separate meeting, then with the first portion of that could be a briefing for the board from the consultant, then we could get into the
Yeah.
public input.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Give us some time to digest it before.
right.
Well, I think Luke is saying before that
Yes.
meeting. I
Yeah,
mean,
before.
that night.
Like 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I think
I just want to make sure that.
if we can arrange that.
Yeah,
Okay, well, then that could be part of a meeting, right? If
that
it-
could be part of
Yeah,
the,
that could be part of a meeting.
but the
Okay.
open hearing and the real, and we may even still have people coming to that presentation, but we would not be taking input at that point. This is just information for us. So that, and then at that meeting, we would set a public hearing, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, got it. Moving on then to item number 4, you will recall the waste oil contamination that occurred at the transfer station
With fondness, I recall that.
earlier this year. And the decision made by the board at that time was that we'd handle the cost of the remediation out of the hazardous/solid waste revolving fund. However, the expenditure limit for that fund, which is set by town meeting, was set at $70,000. So in order to pay a bill of $89,000, which was the cost of the remediation, we need a vote of both the finance committee and the select board to increase the limit of the fund for this fiscal year to allow that to take place. Priscilla suggested a limit of $125,000. There's the current balance is, I think, 135,000 or something more than that.
Quote like 90,000?
89,000 and some odd, yeah.
Yes, yeah, we attached Clean Harbor's invoice on that, and they're obviously looking to get paid for that, but it can't happen until the limit on the revolving fund is increased. The finance committee voted last evening to do that by increasing the limit to $125,000. It's for this fiscal year only, and the funds are in that account. However, town meeting has limited the expenditures to $70,000 per fiscal year. So,
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move the select board vote to increase the spending limit of the fiscal 21 hazardous waste, solid waste, chapter 44, section 53E and a half. That always makes me, revolving fund from $70,000 to $125,000.
Second.
And I think it's totally appropriate because that's what that money is for hazardous waste. I mean, so I don't know in a way why there should be a spending limit on it, but anyway. fine, let's leave it at that and do it for the year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I still have the question. If it's gonna cost 90, how did we arrive at 125?
Because
what's-
there may be other expenditures that we have this year.
Yeah, what's the typical spend? Priscilla set the number for a reason, right? It's probably 30,000 or, 20,000.
Right, yeah, she sat down with Gary and
Yeah.
they came up with that.
Okay.
that
So
number.
you're saying that the revolving fund covers all the other stuff we do, and then you got to tack this 90,000 on top? of
Yeah,
it?
and mostly it's, the receipts from sticker sales for the transfer station, it accumulates over, 2 or 3 years' time. It's built
Right.
up to 100 and.
They're not allowed to
$40,000.
spend it on anything else. They can only
Oh,
spend
right,
it on hazardous waste.
Exactly.
So that $25 sticker fee you pay every year is not for using the transfer station, it's for the hazardous waste.
Really?
Now it can be spent on solid waste, because we did
Yeah.
change that at town
Did we
meeting.
change that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was changed.
Okay, but
Okay.
anyway, certainly.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, before we get to item number
It has-
Well,
5.
we got to vote.
Have to vote.
Oh, okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
If there's no further discussion, I'll take a roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilo, I.
Louis, aye.
Model I.
Reed, aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and before we get to number 5, I think the chairman has a proclamation to be issued. Upcoming meeting schedule, we've got a meeting on December 22nd. And then we've got 2 meetings scheduled in January, a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. I think we'll be on the 12th rather than the 26th. And also, I didn't want to forget, we've got 2 public information sessions on the municipal aggregation program for Carlisle. And those are on the evenings of December 16th and December 18th at 7 PM. And people can get the Zoom link by emailing us at the Selectman's office at townhall@carlislema.gov. And you can get the link to those.
I've already volunteered to Bob Zog to be at least one of the select representatives to both those meetings, so.
I have
Yes.
also.
Okay,
Okay.
so there'll be 2 of us there.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And now back up to number 5. We have a
Yeah,
proclamation.
if we can, I'd just like to put that off into executive session. So because not everybody here has seen the full, actually, have you all seen the full?
Yes. we
Proclamation.
can-
Okay, if you've all
we
seen
had
it,
a
we can just,
revised one.
without reading it, we can simply just I'd ask if there's any revisions or additions or gripes or,
Sounded very nice.
okay, then I will
And
have
if
it. I
it's
will have that made up.
Barney's, typo or grammatical edit, I think that'll be even better.
Yeah, I did run it through Grammarly.
Well,
Okay.
All right, we will take care of that then. Thank
Move
you.
approval, okay. And I just want to say, next year, I would not be, if this were next year, I would not be happy about meeting on Tuesday, December 22nd, but since I have no other plans, not going anywhere,
Not going to
not
Hawaii?
having anybody over, I guess we can meet on the 22nd, although I do feel it's dangerously close to Christmas. What can I say?
Well, we can always, if it turns out there's nothing important to do, we can always cancel it.
Okay.
That's- I currently don't have anything on the agenda for that evening,
Except for this, yeah.
except for what?
Town school facilities.
This will be our, this will be
Oh,
our
I see.
Christmas party.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't even see that. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Yeah,
All right. I guess we do
Okay.
have things on the agenda.
yeah, we do.
All right.
Okay. Are we at approval of minutes?
Approval of minutes.
Okay, I sent very minor corrections to both of them, to Jen. So I move to approve the minutes from November 10th and November 24th as corrected.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Vote. Roll call.
This is for both of them?
Both of them.
Yeah,
Great. Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilloye.
Louis, I.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Thank you. And town expense payroll warrants.
That's Barney's report. Do you want, can you make that report, Barney, or do you want? Okay, I move, we approve, well, they,
I don't know that we have to do that.
no,
Do we?
you just, we just have to be notified
Yeah.
that the following 3 town expense and payroll warrants were reviewed and approved by Barney Arnold.
Right.
11/24/2020 payroll for town and school warrant number 3421 for $19,800.63. Well, that's low. Town expense warrant 3521 for $373,414.71, and school expense warrant 3621 for $49,036.39. And a warrant dated 12/1/2020, town expense warrant number 3721 for $670,521.62.
Thank you. Item 10.
Move that the board enter into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Paragraph 2, to discuss strategy with respect to bargaining with the non-union employee, Chief Brian Saros, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's and bargaining position, and that afterwards, the board will not return to open session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. It's not debatable. Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Oscar Lilloye.
Louis, I.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Thank you. We'll go into executive session.
Okay.